Good afternoon. I am Dr. Kira Bailey, Assistant Professor of Psychology and Neuroscience. I will be moderating the session today, which will include short presentations by our researchers, followed by a Q&A. But first, a welcome message from President Rock Jones.
It's a pleasure to welcome you to the annual Patsy Belt Conrades Summer Science Research Symposium. This symposium is funded by a gift from Nancy Schneider in honor of her classmate, Patsy Belt Conrades. Each year, we are pleased to present the work of students who have participated in the Summer Science Research program. That research often happens in laboratories on this campus, but it also happens in laboratories in other parts of the country and even sometimes in other parts of the world. This year, much of that research happened virtually, and our presentation this year comes virtually as well. I hope you will enjoy the opportunity to see the amazing research undertaken by our students through this work. One of the hallmarks of Ohio Wesleyan is its commitment to undergraduate research, particularly in the sciences, and that hallmark has been recognized, including in the recent National Science Foundation doctoral completion study, which found that Ohio Wesleyan students, graduates, are in the top 1% in the country of students who complete degrees in the biological sciences and go on to earn doctoral degrees. We're pleased to welcome you today and to see the work of our students at the annual Summer Science Research Symposium.
We will now hear short presentations from our researchers. To the audience, you may type questions in the chat at any time during the presentations. Please note which researcher your question is directed to if you can, and I will be selecting a few questions to read to the researchers during the Q&A if we have time. So our first presentation is by Navami Shenoy, Joy Buraima, and Isabelle Rodriguez, who worked together on a project this summer.
Hi everyone, I'm Navami, and along with Joy and Isabelle and with Dr. Bailey's mentorship, we're studying how video games affect the brain, especially cognitive control. So cognitive control is a set of processes in the brain that allow us to set goals and direct a behavior to achieve those goals. And we know that video games have an impact on cognitive control, but it's not really clear exactly which aspects of the video game are causing which changes to cognitive control. And the reason for that is because researchers design cognitive tasks, to measure specific aspects of cognitive control. But video games are not necessarily designed to reflect what these cognitive tasks do. They're made for entertainment purposes. So that's why we're creating 3 video games that are going to replicate 2 of the standard cognitive tasks so we can better control and understand which aspects of the games are causing the different effects on cognitive control. And one of the applications of this research is making video games that can help improve attention and memory in certain populations, such as older adults and children, and also training professionals like military personnel or pilots.
All right, hello, I'm Joy. I hope you can hear me well. So the games that we designed were designed using the Unreal Engine 4.25.3. So this is a platform used to develop games ranging from first-person shooter games to role-playing games. And so our individual games were developed primarily using a blueprint system, which is a node-based visual scripting interface. And we also use animations as well.
Hi, I'm Isabelle. The NBAC task is a cognitive task that measures working memory and working memory capacity. Working memory can be thought of as short-term storage of information so that reasoning and decision-making can be carried out. In the task, participants are presented with a sequence, 1 by 1, of stimuli. This can be numbers, but most commonly, people use letters. For each stimulus, the participant needs to decide if the current stimulus is the same one that was presented N trials ago. The N can be 1, 2, or 3 trials. The idea is that as the number of N trials increases, the more difficult the task will be. I adapted this task into a video game. There are 3 levels to simulate the 1, 2, and 3 back trials. Instead of letters, I used various food stimuli. The playable character runs through a city and the player needs to decide when to turn based on the presented stimuli. The game will measure reaction time and accuracy.
Next, I will be talking about the flanker task. So the Erickson flanker task is a test that measures response inhibition given particular defined context. So participants must respond to a target stimulus, such as an arrow, which is flanked by either congruent stimuli, which is corresponding to an opposing directional response. So if you had your target stimulus was a left arrow for an incongruent stimuli, the other targets would be like on the right. Or you could have congruent stimuli. So for a left center target stimulus, you'd have like other left flanking stimuli. Or a neutral one, which is neither congruent nor incongruent. So for our purposes and for my game, I featured a playable character who is required to respond to a range of stimuli in the form of differently colored white bots. So for a congruent stimuli set, we have all the white bots being the same color. For an incongruent stimuli set, we have different colors. And those were the only 2 congruency conditions that I used in my game.
Like Joy's game, my game is also based on the flanker task. But it's more of a science fiction role-playing game. So instead of arrows in a flanker task, my stimuli are zombies or cyborgs. And one example of the congruent stimulus is 5 zombies in a row. Another example is 5 cyborgs in a row. And the incongruent version of that would be 1 cyborg flanked by 2 zombies on each side. So whatever the stimulus is, the player has to respond by pressing the right key that corresponds to the target in the middle. Throughout the game, we'll also measure the time it takes for the player to respond and also how accurate the responses are.
Adapting to the challenges of COVID-19, we're currently working on making these video games mobile so that participants can play them without having to come to the lab. Since we're designing the games to measure accuracy and reaction time, we'll receive behavioral data that will validate the design of our games. When it's safe again, participants will be brought to the lab so that they can play the video games whilst their EEG/ECG brain data is being collected. So thank you. Are there any questions?
All right, audience members, again, you can type your questions into the chat. Thank you. And now we will move on to a presentation by Hanh Phan.
Hello, my name is Hanh, and now I'm going to present about my 2020 summer research program. So I, with Dr. Sean McCloud, did a project in artificial intelligence for the board game Scotland Yard. So first I'm going to introduce you about the basic rules of the board game so that you can have a basic understanding of what we did. So it is a game that was built based on the Scotland Yard, the street of London, where we have 6 players and 5 of them are detectives and 1 is called Mr. X. So 5 detectives' job is trying to catch Mr. X, while the Mr. X is always trying to hide. And you know, there are 24 rounds, and every round, Mr. X will make a move, and the 5 detectives also make a move and try to catch him. And if you end up, and after that 24 round, you cannot catch him, then you lose. Otherwise, you win. So what we did is trying to build an AI agent. We name it the planner. So we play as the 5 detectives and we try our best to catch Mr. X. So there are some occasions where the detectives get information about Mr. X, such as when Mr. X location will be revealed at round 3, 8, 13, and 18. And also for every move Mr. X makes, his means of transportation is also revealed, so we can use that to get some knowledge about Mr. X's location. So before Mr. X appear, we'll try to move to the nearest underground station. So we have taxi and buses and underground station where each player can be at like when they make a move throughout the map. So yeah, at underground station, they will have like better chance and better opportunity to move wildly and move around the map more comfortably. So before Mr. X show up, every detective will try to move that so that they can form well-connected locations. And then after Mr. X show up, so every detective get to know that his location is revealed, and then they try to find, the AI will try to find the shortest path to connect to Mr. X possible locations. And then all the detective will try to cover those possible location and then try to catch Mr. X. Using the breadth first search algorithm, we can find the shortest path for a detective, and then those detectives will try to gather these cards and then decide which destination they are going to, so that no detective are trying to get to the same location. And then when every detective like make a decision of where to go to, other detective will know that, okay, this one is moving to this place and then I'm not going to that place anymore. So with that, we are trying to limiting the possible location of Mr. X location, so that in the end, the detective can catch Mr. X. So if, for example, if the set of Mr. X location get too large, or we'll try to move the detectives to some well-connected locations before Mr. X show up again, instead of trying to look for him in a very large set of locations.
Thank you very much. Okay, so our first question is for Hanh, and can you explain a little bit more about the breadth first search algorithm that you mentioned? How were you able to find the shortest path to Mr. X's possible locations?
So for the breadth first search algorithm, it's trying to, so you have a set, like I said, you have a set of possible Mr. X location at the beginning, and you have also the current detective's location. So the breadth first search algorithm, what it will do is trying to look all around the map and looking for, so for every possible connected location between you and a point on the map, it will go further and further away until it finds one of Mr. X possible location, and then it will get that shorted part for you, and then it will save that path, and then you can follow that path to find Mr. X.
Great, thank you. This next question is for Joy and Navami. Either one of you can go first. Why did you choose the flanker task? What interested you about trying to replicate that particular task in a video game?
Well,
Right.
I thought the flanker task was a very interesting and easily replicable cognitive task. And so I chose it because I also was interested in seeing how using different, because typically you use like arrows or letters, numbers have been used, symbols and such. So I was wondering, I was very interested in seeing how playable wide robots could contribute to that effect and how well that was able to be replicated as a task.
My reason was I also thought it was easy to turn into a game compared to some other tasks. So also because I took the task and I thought it would be really easy, you know, like you just have to, if one thing is in the middle, you press one key, if there's something else, you press the other key. It should be really simple, but it's not. I got so many of them wrong. So yeah, that's why.
Thank you. Isabelle, do you want to talk about maybe what was the most challenging thing this summer in building your video game?
Above all, I think it was learning how to use the engine because we're all neuroscience majors, so none of us know anything about like video games and coding. So that was very fun in itself, learning to do that, but also adapting our cognitive tasks into a video game because we really wanted to get the feeling of that when the participant plays a game, it's not like a boring cognitive task game that researchers have used in the past. We really wanted it to feel like a real video game. So it was fun, but it was challenging. But I think those two were the top challenges.
Thank you. This question is for Hanh. What made you get involved with this kind of research this summer? What excited you about the project?
Actually, I'm kind of like interested in playing hide and seek, and then trying to hide, and then people have to look for you, and that's why I choose this project. Because like at the first week we have different games to choose, but then I decided this one because I like it.
And I will go back for our last question and ask Navami, what was the most surprising thing you learned this summer?
Well, I learned a lot of surprising things in the summer, to be honest, because in the beginning, I was mostly thinking of, when I entered the field of neuroscience, I was thinking mostly of like molecular genetics kind of background, or maybe some computational neuroscience background, and I never really thought much about cognitive neuroscience. Now I'm really interested in it. Like I'm loving this research. I'm loving my game, and I really want to see how it's going to turn out, how we're going to get the data in the future. So I'm really excited for the whole process.
Well, thank you very much to all of our researchers for the time that you've put in on these projects, and they've turned out great. For our audience, if you haven't checked out their websites yet, which tell you more about their projects, please do that. And I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any questions if you want to email them. So thank you all very much for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.